there's been some movement in the past few days around the film industry, in the business realm, and in the legal realm in a lot of ways too. Hollywood is not filming in California anymore. So why is that? Now, it's not that they don't film anything in California, but the majority of projects that Hollywood studios are producing are not filmed in California. Why is that? A lot of people know, but some people may not. Some people might not know, like, what does the whole tax credit system thing mean, right? That could be very confusing unless you have an idea of what that means. Well, the recent news that's very fascinating is that New York, right, who's always been the opposite to California as like the film industry, they have raised their tax credit for the state annually to $800 million. So basically, if you don't know what a tax credit is, certain states in the United States and even in Europe, like Europe has some good tax credits as well because they're trying to get the film industry out there. There's film industry tax credits where basically when you spend money in the state as a production, you can either get reimbursed at a certain percentage of the amount of money spent in the state, or for tax credit purposes, right? So you pay a sales tax when you order equipment, and then you have to meet the threshold to qualify for the tax credit, which a lot of times for like the state of, I believe it's New York, I think the minimum is $1 million. So you could be a smaller film and still get the tax credit. But basically, you get a certain percentage of the money spent reimbursed back to you. And it's just to incentivize, hey, we are wanting this amount of money, like this industry that spends a lot of money, the Hollywood system that's made up of the main studios, we want them to come to our state and spend money in our state that gets the cash moving. We want these big spenders to spend money here. Right? And New York and California has always been the place where those big money spenders in Hollywood have spent money. But in recent years, with the taxes and the costs and the legislation and everything in these states being so incredibly ridiculous and inflating, there has been certain states like Georgia, the state that I live in, around Atlanta, that's kind of built up a reputation to say, hey, we have pretty good film tax credits here. And in the long run, you can actually get more out of your production, spend less if you just film in Georgia and spend money on the production in Georgia. People like Tyler Perry built his whole studio out here for those reasons. And so he actually gets a ton of business from Hollywood. This is a breakdown. I don't think the New York numbers are updated because this is news, how they raised from, I think it was 700 million annually to 800 million. So they added an extra 100 milli on top of what their tax credit is annually already. So basically, like, a state will give you a percentage based on how much your budget was, how much you spent in the state. They'll give you a credit back. And then once they reach, like if 200 films causes the state to reach 800 million, then it's cut off. But they raise it so high to say, hey, we have a lot of money dedicated to give films breaks, to incentivize spending money in the state. You look at California, they have 20% spending in labor, 5% uplift for out of zone, right? So around 20% tax credit if you think about it in basic terms. In New York, you have a 30% tax credit. What's interesting about that is in Georgia, you have a 20 to 30% tax credit. And apparently, there's also some other incentives inside of Georgia that is called transferable. And so there's certain benefits to being able to have transferable tax credits in certain states. So like California is not necessarily a transferable, it is a refundable tax credit. And then you have New York that is also a refundable. But then you have places like Georgia that if you work the numbers out, you actually save more by, filming in Georgia. You got like Pennsylvania that has a 25%. You have Montana that's a 20 to 25. Utah that's 20. So a lot of states have tax credits. But what's interesting is that very few states reach that 30% mark. And Georgia ranges from 20 to 30, and New York is right at 30, but you also have to take into consideration the amount of costs associated with spending money in New York because things tend to be more expensive there, right? So there's a lot of money that can be saved filming in Georgia, and you get a higher tax credit. So you can buy more and get a competitive credit back. So that is a basic understanding of how the tax credits work. So why is everyone fighting for attention? Why are all the states saying, hey, we need to film outside of California? Why are places like Georgia, where I live, the past like 10 years or so, maybe more, trying to say, hey, we should get the film industry to come here, right? That's what they've been doing. They've been saying, hey, we want the film industry to come here. So why are they doing that? Well, it's clear that they want money spent here, but hey, also, California is no longer a good place to film. It's also happening because people are realizing it, hey, we don't need to film in one spot. We could film anywhere. In fact, we want to be able to go anywhere to film our movies. The reason why California was the place where Hollywood got set up is because the weather predictability, right? There was a lot of logistics, more than there are now when it came to filmmaking, because it was very delicate. Filmmaking back then, back in the day, was very delicate. It had to be very predictable. You had to have big sound stages. The equipment was extremely expensive and could be ruined or messed up super easily. You didn't have time to, get delayed by weather and all of that. And so it was just, you needed a place that was predictable to film at. And California had a variety of landscapes. So it had the ocean, it had deserts, it has mountains, and it's like, okay, the weather's great here. It's more predictable than other states. Also, it has this large variety of landscapes and different types of areas inside of the state. We'll just set up shop here in California. And honestly, that's like a really smart move. California was probably the best place to set up the film industry when it was taking off. Now, with the creator economy and how you can become famous like Mr. Beast in North Carolina. You can get more people watching your video film content, if you call that film, but you can get more people to be entertained by your video media than Hollywood does on a regular basis. Mr. Beast gets more eyeballs across the globe than Hollywood does, like on a one-to-one comparison, right? Maybe not collectively, but on one-to-one comparison, Mr. Beast beats them. He beats the major studios. And he does it through YouTube. And so YouTube and the creator economy motivates the entire industry to kind of adapt. So the film industry and these big spenders in Hollywood, places like Disney, Warner Brothers, right? Paramount, they've been struggling for a long time, but they're still there. They're kind of saying, hey, we need to be able to move. We need to be able to save money where we can. We need to be able to have incentives, and we can kind of go anywhere. We have offices here in California, but it's not financially smart to film things here, because if we go film it in Georgia and even New York, now that they're competing, you're just going to get more bang for your buck, right? And there are even other states that you could probably get really good returns on. It doesn't have to be Georgia or New York or California alone. You can see from this map, there's a lot of states that have incentives and like 25% tax credits, but it has to go somewhere, right? And there's benefit to it being in a centralized place, like Atlanta, Georgia, like New York City, like Los Angeles, because that's where everyone can kind of build around, right? I thought that was super fascinating to see that the world of filmmaking, it's been doing this for years, well over a decade now, but more and more we're seeing states saying like, as California's like, hey, we don't want to lose the industry, the film industry. What can we do to keep them? Well, states that have been competing for the attention of the film industry are now raising their attractiveness at the same time that California is trying to. California just can't keep up. They can't keep up with the demand of what the Hollywood system needs. where the money's being spent, how films are being made these days. It needs ways to save money as much as possible. And more, Hollywood, the entertainment industry is being influenced by the creator economy, and the creator economy doesn't live inside of cities. It doesn't live inside of state borders. Really, what it lives wherever it wants, because it's online.